I'm Neil, and welcome to today's session entitled The Backbone of Cyber Resilience from Druva. I appreciate you giving us the time today. So I'm joined today by Badri Raghunathan. He's the Senior Director of Product Management here at Druva. And I'm Neil Ashworth. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect for Security at Druva. In my role, I speak with customers to help them understand the benefits of the Druva data protection cloud and how it might fit into their existing cybersecurity and business goals. So Druva is a data resiliency cloud. Roughly 10 years ago, that the term cyber resiliency was coined and used as a way, I feel, to better describe the efforts of an organization when they're continuously trying to deliver IT services despite cyber attacks. It brings together concepts like business continuity and cybersecurity and organizational resilience. It brings it all together. And that's why I like that term, because it almost acknowledges the state of the world that we live in and makes plans for secure systems architecture. So it's those are ones that expect compromises to occur and plan accordingly. It brings together concepts like defense in depth and need to know, effectively reducing the scope of a breach to lessen the overall risk impact or risk rating. It works lockstep with some strategic guidelines, doesn't it, such as NIST zero trust architecture and the NIST cybersecurity framework. And so data resiliency is a fundamental part of cyber resiliency. It's especially important given the disparate nature of data center infrastructure. Druva, as the data resiliency cloud, works lockstep with your existing data security strategies. Helping protect your data from your edge devices, so like Android, Apple, Linux, Windows, etc. It supports your data centers running VMware and Oracle and Nutanix, HCI, NetApp, and SAP. It supports hosted SaaS applications such as Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace and Salesforce, which themselves are not automatically protected. And it also supports your workloads running in the public cloud, such as AWS EC2 instances or Azure VMs. So Druva is best thought of as data protection as a service. It's built on top of the AWS cloud, making it maximally available, which is a huge benefit when you're going through an emergency situation. But it doesn't have any of the components for our end customers to configure, deploy, patch, or own themselves. So that's who we are. And our customers are spread throughout the globe, operating in all industries and all verticals. And they share similar business priorities, which obviously can be summarized by the phrase doing more with less. I would say most recently, the explosion in the mainstream of tools like ChatGPT and other generative AI large language models this past year in particular, has accelerated the prioritization of companies hoping to do some innovation with AI. But on the whole, we find that from speaking with our customers that there are regularly around 5 IT priorities, and they remain fairly consistent. Protecting data from ransomware remains a top priority, and with good cause, given the increasing frequency and impact of cyber attacks, some of which we'll discuss today. Reducing cost and complexity never loses its place in IT priorities. However, the interesting trend that we're seeing is that businesses are now looking for disruptive optimizations. So they're focusing more on their own core competencies and delegating non-core functions to established vendors. So that reduces complexity and cost. All of that in turn continues to fuel the smart cloud strategy adoption. It's entering the next phase of its maturity cycle, where IT is looking to use the best cloud for the specific application needs, and frankly, to use multi-cloud to better drive efficiencies and economics. As topical as it may be, even in this post-COVID world, the new normal of remote working, like it or not, is now a requirement for most roles. And protecting that end user data might not be completely covered by cloud services such as OneDrive, as an example, or it doesn't give the nuance of data copies that you would like to see from data protection. And so to that extent, it's believed that many of our customers are now reprioritizing data protection at the edge. Another issue felt fairly ubiquitously by almost all of our customers is the growing data problem. It's one that continues to plague all industries with the exponential data growth that we're seeing occurring. It becomes exceptionally more complex to manage, and regulatory requirements around data retention, appropriate data use, or rather data management, with things like the right to be forgotten or data sovereignty, which we've recently seen enforced with companies like Meta, receiving large GDPR fines. And there are additional issues with businesses expanding to use multiple clouds. So data gets to be more distributed, increasing the number of locations where data needs to be protected. So every day, businesses are onboarding newer applications to meet the needs of customers, which often changes quite rapidly. But then that increases the data sources that it now needs to protect. And to keep up with all of these trends, data protection is almost like solving the problem of hitting a moving target from a moving vehicle. So that these challenges that are posed by continual data growth and the business priorities we see across many customers, they seem antithetical to the traditional approaches of do-it-yourself backup solutions. So DIY data protection just hasn't evolved quickly enough to keep up with the growing IT needs that companies are often seen having to manage across 5 to 7 different vendors to make legacy backup effective. So do-it-yourself solutions unnecessarily strain IT teams. Obviously, you can understand that by the flow of the process of building that out. It begins with architecting the solution, procuring all of the necessary infrastructure, and then right-sizing the capacity before applying security best practices, patches and updates and upgrades, and on and on. Newer vendors, don't want to call them out specifically, but they have improved on one small piece of this complexity by simplifying the initial deployment. But it's just a step improvement, since there's still fundamentally a do-it-yourself approach to their solution. Customers are still entirely responsible for the upkeep of any physical infrastructure, bricks or nodes within their own data center. And if they don't secure them, if you don't harden them, you don't keep up to date with all the new features and rollouts. But more importantly, you may be left with a weakness or a vulnerability in your data center. So ideally, your backup solution should be continuously maintained, secured, and hardened. So you never need to run updates for your data protection, and you never need to negotiate maintenance windows with business owners. So if we scratch the idea of do-it-yourself, then there's no need to procure hardware. There's no need to figure out the racking, installing, cabling, the software, etc. All the fine-tuning that goes along with that. Doing away with the DIY methods allows cost forecasting to be a bit more efficient and applied simply to what you use. So you're not projecting consumption 3 to 5 years down the road. So that method also lacks a great deal of agility. Doing away with this DIY method allows businesses to pursue new markets more rapidly, letting them add applications and users without being seen as a bottleneck.